Are live. We are live, man. Welcome again to another episode of Unk and Phew with the one and only man, Unk Football, and your host with the most, Big Stepper. We here. We
All
here.
right.
We here. So I'm gonna start this off by asking, how you doing, Unk? How's everything? How's your week going? How you
I'm
doing?
doing all right. Like the song says, feeling mighty good myself. So
Okay.
yeah, we actually had Friday off yesterday because of we got rained out that big storm that came through. So
Um,
I'm relaxed and refreshed and ready to enjoy some football.
I love it. I love it. Let me tell you like this, man. The past week was kind of trash for me because I'm dealing with like a cold, right?
Mm,
I took a COVID test. Me, I'm good. No COVID. Thank God. You know what I mean? Knock on
yeah,
all the wood.
blessing.
You feel me? So
Yeah, bud.
I'm good on that. But it's gonna be, if y'all know this show, it's Canada based, right? So this week is Thanksgiving weekend. So to all our Canadians who be watching,
Yes,
I just
sir.
I want to give y'all a happy Thanksgiving. Get your turkey. You know what I mean? Get your pie. Enjoy yourself with your fams if you can, if available.
I,
But
I I
uh,
used to have to
yeah,
explain to Americans about how a late November harvest celebration doesn't really jive with the weather up here in Canada. So yeah, we do it early.
no.
By that
Hey,
time, there's snow in half the country.
man, you know the craziest part about it, right? I never searched up the history behind October Thanksgiving, but it makes so much sense here in Canada
Yeah,
because if you get into November, late November, it ain't fall, bro. It's like you getting your shovels out, man. You getting your
you
jackets. You're like
you've missed your moment.
you missed all of it. It's
Like
the leaves are gone, dog.
around here,
Mm.
usually the peak fall foliage occurs over the Thanksgiving weekend. So it's really a great time, certainly in
Oh,
this part of the country, to go out, drive around, appreciate fall in its full, vibrant colors and all that type of thing, and then enjoy your
yes, sir.
meal. Like it really does feel like fall. Thanksgiving is a wonderful time of the year. The weather has been cooperating; it's spectacular. So, I love Thanksgiving.
Man, I love it too, man. I'm thankful for you, man. I'm thankful for the people who spend their time with us every Saturday at 2 p.m.
Yes,
We might be
yes,
moving the schedule to Sunday morning, but we're gonna discuss that on the back end in the future.
sure.
Get y'all ready for the football weekend in the future. But we're gonna start off with this. You know what else I'm thankful for? I'm thankful for drafting Christian McCaffery in one of my fantasy leagues because he is looking like an MVP, bruh.
Yeah,
Looking
man.
like an not just a fantasy MVP, the
Yep,
league MVP. Unc, what are
yep.
your thoughts of this
Well,
performance by this amazing player, man?
well,
Talk to me.
as the beneficiary of Mister CMC in my own fantasy league here with you,
Mm,
I
mm,
clearly see the value that he's providing. And
mm.
let's remember, right? The V in MVP is valuable. And it's after last weekend's performance,
Yep.
105 yards rushing, over 5 yards a carry, three rushing touchdowns, another 70 yards, another 70 yards in receiving on seven receptions.
Yep.
So, yeah, incredibly efficient. And fantasy is underrated when it comes to the ability to determine MVP status. And right now, CMC is well
Yeah.
atop the fantasy rankings. He's outscoring the quarterbacks, by a good 10, well, 20, almost 20 points, right? 15 points. So
Yeah.
he's clearly head and shoulders above the other talents as far as productivity goes in the NFL. And to me, that
Mhm.
is the nature of the MVP award, is that it should be going to the most valuable player, the most productive player. Several well-known talking heads this week, from Colin Cowherd on down, have
Mhm.
all been saying emphatically that Michael Irvin is another one as well too, weighing in on it, saying emphatically that CMC to date has been showing himself as the MVP candidate, head and shoulders above everybody else,
Mhm.
and they're really quite disgusted when they look at the odds In
Yes.
fact, some of them were quite outspoken because the odds for MVP, they have like, tags is like 5-1, Lamar Jackson 10-1. It's
Yes.
the bookmakers have CMC as the 10th, number 10, the 10th ranked MVP
Yup.
candidate, and a lot of people are upset about that, and justifiably so. Uh, this seems wrong to me. CMC is clearly, the MVP candidate. They really should do like the NHL and just simply have a quarterback award, because this is
Yeah.
unfair to other
Yeah.
players in the league, both on defense and offense at the skill positions. That it's a tragedy every year. It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
So
If
yeah,
you and by the way, I have the odds up here, and you're right, man. We're looking at Josh Allen, we're looking at Tua, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Justin Herbert. Why? And then you have McCaffrey over here, and we just ran off about 7 quarterbacks. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Or six, my bad. Before we
yeah.
even touch McCaffrey at plus 2,000, man.
And of
It's
course,
crazy.
only the top three of those quarterbacks will seriously be in discussion, right? So the
Yes.
fact that CMC is ranking seventh among odds makers shows you what a tragedy that this really is.
Man, and you think about it like this, man. The last time we had an MVP who was non-quarterback was, Adrian Peterson, and that
Hmm.
was in I think 2013 or maybe
Yep,
11 or 12. It was around that pocket
it
where
happens about once a decade.
yes, and in my mind, I'm like, what is going on right now? Because the way that they're judging MVPs now is no longer a player award, it's a quarterback award.
That's
So
right.
baseball has a similar thing where they have the Cy Young for the best pitcher, right? And then they should think about that kind of metric, because
Yep.
I know in baseball the Cy Young is very appreciated, but there's also MVPs, just a regular
Hmm. Yep.
American League, North American League MVP, which is also valuable, but usually goes to another player of another position, like a
Yep.
shortstop,
And
first base, second base, all that shit. You know what I mean?
like I said, the
Yeah,
NHL also does the same thing.
yeah, NHL is the same.
Yeah, they honor the forward who scores the most points, and then they also have the Ross Trophy or whatever it is for the most valuable player. And when you do that,
Yes.
when you separate the most productive players,
Mm-hmm.
which are invariably quarterbacks, from the rest of the herd, and it really opens up the competition now to all the other skilled players, defensive players, you know what I mean, who really did make unique contributions as an MVP player on that team. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's good to see, because otherwise I mean, this is just crazy. Year after year after year, it's just a quarterback award. So just call it that.
Mm-hmm. I,
Mm,
I I always think about it like this, right? We look at teams, right, and their most valuable players in certain teams is not even the quarterback. We look at the Rams; their most valuable player is clearly Aaron Donald.
yeah,
Steelers' most valuable player is C.J. Watt.
yeah.
You remove these guys from these teams, and for me, my argument is, for me, I think Tyreek Hill is the most important guy on
Hmm.
Miami, and clearly McCaffrey is the most important guy on the Niners. You remove these guys from their team, you, they're gonna lose. The squad
Yeah,
is gonna lose, and that
yeah,
makes you think. Okay, so the quarterback, the MVP award needs to be changed into just
yeah.
the best overall play. What would you do if, like you said, would you make a separate award for the quarterback, and they make an MVP overall, right?
Yes.
How would
That's
it
exactly
work?
what I would do, and I would
You
I
do
would
that?
exclude the
Yeah.
quarterbacks from that award. There might
Yes,
be a
I see
year
what
somewhere where somebody says, okay, like, I don't know. I
I
guess it's difficult when you exclude the quarterbacks altogether, but if you give them their own award, you're not in such a rush to make them MVP of the league. If
yeah,
you get some guy who comes out one year in the next 10 years who throws for 60 touchdowns, runs for 10, just has
yeah,
ridiculous numbers, of course, right, you're going to give that guy the MVP and a quarterback award. But
yeah,
generally speaking, I would suggest that if you separated the QB award from the
mhm,
MVP award, we would see a much larger diversity we would
Yeah.
explore the other positions more to see who's really contributing in those other positions besides quarterback. And I think it would make for a more dynamic award, one that is discussed in greater detail, but, paid attention to. So I think it would be a smart move by the NFL overall, just in general.
Yeah, man. And if you think about it like this, right? If you have an award that goes always to one position, that raises the value of that position for sure. But then it diminishes the value of others.
Well,
You
yeah,
know, you stop paying,
attention.
running backs. Stop paying it exactly. Stop paying attention to the other guys on the field who
Hmm.
are making such a significant amount of work. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
feel me?
that's my contention. Yes.
Hmm. But I will say this, man. As we look at last week, man, we
Hmm.
gotta talk about the big one, dog. We gotta, and for me, y'all know me. I'm a Ravens fan. I'm a Patriots hater, man. I hate the Pats. What they used to do to my Ravens in the 2000s, the
Yeah, I think
2010s.
everyone's enjoying.
Oh yes, we're enjoying watching this. The Patriots losing, man. And it wasn't
Hmm.
just a small loss. It was an embarrassing loss. They got mollywopped, bro.
Yeah.
They got cooked. And a
Hmm.
lot of people have been talking about, are the Pats for real? Was it all Tom Brady? Or was it all Bill Belichick? Or was it both? Unc, what are your thoughts? Because there's a narrative coming. It's starting to come
Hmm.
that Belichick is ass and he needs to move somewhere else, or we know the dynasty's over. But getting killed 38-3, man, it
Yeah.
was embarrassing to watch that game, man. What do you think, Uncle? Talk to the people, man.
What I think is that it's unfair to Belichick and to Brady, to try to say
Yeah,
which one was the main guy. They worked together. But
yeah,
the thing you have to recognize too is that you have to start asking yourself whether or not the game is beginning to pass Belichick by, right? He wouldn't be the first guy. He's had a fantastic run, but yeah, maybe his brand of coaching and whatnot is starting to get figured out. I mean, give him credit; he did it over 25 years, just bamboozling everybody.
yeah.
Um, but we're reaching a point now where yeah, like Mac Jones cannot seem to thrive, and the defense clearly did not function, and those have been the hallmarks of Belichick's teams, and they're not showing that. And if they're not showing that, then you have to ask. I mean, come on, he's had a ridiculously long run and tenure as
Mm-hmm.
the head coach, and also not just the head coach, but the premier head coach in the league. It happens to everybody. And yes, I'm starting to hear rumors, people saying, okay, now, like, do we have to fire Bill Belichick, or can he be negotiated with for a graceful exit?
Yeah.
But I think I would after that loss, you would have to think that the higher ups in that organization are starting to ask questions like that.
And then think about it like this, right? We look at Belichick as a defensive mastermind, which he is. But to get completely destroyed, 38
Hmm.
to 3, there's a good loss and then there's a bad loss. Like last week, the
Hmm.
Colorado Buffaloes. Because I'm a fan. I like seeing the whole deal. I love it. The Buffs
Right.
were getting mollywopped by USC in the first half. Caleb
Hmm.
Williams had thrown like 5 touchdowns, 300 yards. It looked like it was gonna be a full blowout. And then in the second half, Shador Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes, along with this really good receiver, Marion Miller, they
Hmm.
came back. They put up 40 points. They
Yeah.
lost, but they put up 40 points and almost
Well,
made a comeback, which
it's
is a good loss,
interesting.
you know?
It's
Hmm.
interesting because you said last week that we would, or a couple of weeks ago, that we would find out, what Dion is really made of as a coach when he
Yeah.
starts facing Oregon and USC. And to
Hmm.
find, and let's not forget that that TCU win. TCU is a powerhouse every year.
Oh
Like
yeah,
they're a top.
TCU is real.
Yeah,
Hmm.
they're a top 20 team perennially.
Yeah,
So this is twice now where Dion has taken these Buffs who were like, what did you say, 1-13 last year or something like that, 1-12.
one and 11. Yeah.
Yeah, 1-11. Yeah, they probably didn't get any bowl games. Um, and
No.
so, yeah. So to come within 4 points in a shootout match, a comeback shootout out with against Caleb Wilson, against a Heisman candidate and a powerhouse like USC.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. If you're not already on the Buffs bandwagon, you should be. Dion's for real, man.
Dion is so real, and I'm telling you right now, when we look at what Belichick is doing with the Patriots, the Pats, that team does not look like a competitive team. It does not look like a playoff team.
No,
You
it
could even
does not.
argue that the Pats are like they might be the worst team in that division because the Jets looked like they looked like something last week, you know?
The Jets look way more competitive than the Pats.
Yes, they do. And you might even argue he's the third best coach in that division. I'm not even lying. If we look at
Hmm.
recent football, Sean McDermott up in Buffalo, he's coaching them.
Yeah,
McDaniels, McDavid, or I forgot his name.
yeah.
The Miami coach, he's coaching them up really well.
McDaniel, yeah.
And then you have Belichick as the number 3 coach. Salah's pretty good too. So it's like
Salah is good.
in your own division, you're not even close to the best coach. It's
In
crazy.
case you've missed it, there is
Mhm.
a generational switch. There's a generational transition occurring in the AFC East right now, the league in general, and yeah, Gen X is starting to be served. Even the early millennials are starting to show up. And Bill Belichick, Bill Boomer Belichick,
It's a
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
bad.
it tolls for thee, Mister Belichick. That bell tolls for thee.
You know what's crazy about this too, man? Think about it like this, right? You have a team like the Seattle Seahawks. Pete Carroll is 71,
Yeah, a
and
younger
this
guy, but he's
team
a
is
boomer
doing
too.
great. Hmm?
Hmm.
What'd you say? Sorry.
He's a younger disposition than Belichick is, but he's a
Yes.
boomer too.
Yes.
Um, and I think his time is starting to run short as well. Also,
Yeah.
um, there's a real upsurge in talent at quarterback. Tomlinson in Pittsburgh is probably the avatar for that. Just despite their struggles.
Oh no, that's not even on my topic list. But brother, how do you feel about that loss to the Texans? It was
Oh
'cause
boy,
I don't want to blame Tomlinson,
yeah.
but I can maybe blame him. As a
I,
Steelers fan, I want to hear what your thoughts are.
well, the only thing I blame him for is showing the faith in Matt Canada that he's been showing. Because yes, that loss was embarrassing.
No
Not
doubt.
taking anything away from Houston, Stroud and Nico
Mm-hmm.
Collins are looking to be
Mm-hmm.
like a very real connection. And plus, they have Damian Pierce in the backfield. Houston is a better team than they appear. Yeah,
Oh
and most
yes.
people,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So yeah, don't take anything away from them. I would when I looked at the stat sheet for that game because yeah, I didn't watch it. Um, fan that I am, I did not watch that game because yeah, no, I'm just not that interested in I had a feeling they were going to lose, right? And Kenny Pickett is he's got a great arm. He's got a great arm, but I don't know whether I'm also a little bit inclined to think almost that the receivers can't handle it. I'm not going to put it entirely on Pickett because when I looked at
No,
the previous week's game, which I did watch, remember we were talking about the
yes.
disproportionate amount of yards that were going to one receiver. So that tells me that
Yes.
like the other three or four receivers on Pittsburgh's core are having trouble corralling Kenny Pickett's
Mm-hmm.
passes.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the
Yep.
responsibility falls on Pickett as the quarterback. And yeah, the problem seems to be
Yep.
Matt Canada's offense combined with Kenny Pickett's deficiencies at quarterback. So yeah,
Yes.
that's my feeling there.
Yeah.
I'm yeah, like I cannot in good conscience recommend the Steelers in any picks at all right now.
You're right about what you're talking about, a generational shift, not only in the
Hmm.
coaching, but the type of players you need at the quarterback position. And we're just
Yeah,
looking at the stats right now. If y'all can see the screen, uh, I think it's concerning when the Steelers' best receiver or the one who's gotten the most yards is Najee Harris. And he didn't
yeah.
get that many yards. He had one reception for 32 yards. You
Hmm.
know, Pickens should get more targets, more catches. You're right, man. The offense is not looking right, and You
Mm.
flip it on the other side. You look at the Texans. That offense is flowing, man. C.J. Stroud is
Yes, it
not
is.
throwing picks. He's throwing touchdowns. He's finding
Hmm.
Nico Collins. I really like this rookie called Tank Dell. I really like him. I think he's a
Yes.
sleeper type of receiver. He can take the top off. You have Damon Pierce giving you some yards. I think that the Texans is the low-key surprise of the season for me. And
Yep.
Steelers, unfortunately, they're a surprise too because I expect their Steelers to be really good.
Yeah.
I really was
Yeah.
hopeful. You know what I mean? I'm gonna stop
Their
saying this, man.
offense, their offense had people
So
talking in the preseason, but it's preseason, kid. Anyone who's watched the league long enough knows
well,
that the preseason is not an accurate indicator of what's really going to happen as the season opens. So yeah,
mm,
going against the JV squad, yeah, of course Kenny Pickett looked real good. But I think honestly,
um,
I've watched the zip on his balls that he's throwing, and
okay.
they're really going in there, and they're almost too much for some of these receivers to handle. So I don't know whether he has to learn to take a little off, um, but something's not working in Pittsburgh. The
Yeah, I
X's
guess
and O's are not adding up to W's.
it ain't looking right, Maybe I have a
Mm-mm.
question for you, Unc. I have a question for you, right? If you look at just the history of just football in general, NFL, right? And quarterback play. We've talked
Mm-hmm.
about this last season. We said quarterback play is a little bit diminished, but it's evolving, it's getting different.
It's
Do you
evolving.
think do you think that some of these quarterbacks need to sit down for a year or maybe 2 years to get more fresh or get better? Because you look at a guy like Bryce Young. Bryce Young is
Mm-hmm.
struggling right now. CJ Stroud is like an anomaly. You don't see this. You don't see some guy coming out of the bucket just throwing it, everything like that. And I feel like Kenny Pickett is kind of feeling this too because I think this is Pickett's second year or
Yeah,
maybe it's his second year. Maybe why doesn't Pickett maybe sit down and let Mitch Trubisky game manage for this season and then Pickett can try for next
yeah.
season? You know what I mean? I think there might be some value in that. What are your thoughts, man?
Well, let's take a look at the franchise that has, to me, the most stability at quarterback, and that's Green Bay. The
Yep.
flow from Favre to Rodgers and now to Jordan Love.
Yep.
What's the one thing that all three had in common? They all sat on the damn bench for about 3 years while the quarterback in front of them, you know,
Mm.
right? That is a process that has been lost in recent years. With
Yes.
all the hype for first round draft picks, quarterbacks coming out of college, everybody wants them to produce right away. And it's a ridiculous expectation. It's not going to happen like that. So I have always been a fan of the clipboard mentorship
Yes,
where it
sir.
comes to quarterback. I always bring up the example of Joe Montana. Like Joe Montana was
Yeah.
drafted coming out of Notre Dame in like 1978.
Oh,
When did we hear about him?
in
1981.
80s. Yeah.
1981. Right.
Oh
So again,
wow. He sat
yeah,
for 3 seasons or
yeah,
two?
a better part of four, I think.
Whoa, I didn't even know
Three or
that.
four, yeah. And Terry Bradshaw was held up as the example of why you absolutely mentor a quarterback because he was probably the equivalent of what we're seeing nowadays, where the quarterback is sort of just thrown in there. But Pittsburgh was an historically bad franchise at the time. They had nothing to lose by throwing the kid in there and letting him
Oh,
mentor like that. There were zero expectations of him
okay.
in 68, 69, 70. So yeah,
Hmm.
and it led to a lot of fights with with Chuck Noll. Those two batted heads like so hard because he was so young and immature. But
Yeah.
eventually, after about the third season, right? So yeah, but in the modern game, the fishbowl that
Yeah.
is the modern game, the media coverage, the expectations, the hype, the hot takes, right? I think it's an unfair environment for young quarterbacks to learn the game in. Because
Right.
let's remember, quarterback is built on confidence, for heaven's sakes, right?
Yes.
If you don't feel confident,
Facts.
like, yeah,
How are you going to play football with the most mindset based position, which is the quarterback position?
at 20
Literally.
years old, at 20
Yeah.
years old, with
Yeah.
ridiculous expectations on your shoulders.
And then you have Stephen A. Smith going off on you, calling Cowherd, calling you a bum.
Grown ass men picking on these guys.
Grown men in their 50s who are getting paid millions to shit talk you, dog. And this is what, yes, tell him, Unc. We don't do that on this podcast, dog. Unc and Phew, we might talk a little bit spicy, but we gonna lift you up afterwards too, man. We don't. No, we're not a hater. We're not a hater
That's it.
type crew, man. We don't do that weird shit. Come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
But well, let's talk about a big hater. No, I don't know if it's a big hater, but Rodney Harrison. Yes, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, baby.
Rodney Harrison. Now, for me, I started watching football around 2008, 2009. So I was kind of saw a little bit of his play when he was at the Patriots at the tail end of his career. He's doing good ball, but he came from that era where, you know what I mean, there were hard-hitting safeties. There was a mean, aggressive form of football back in the day. The smash mouth, Troy Polamalu, Brian Dawkins style. And he tried to bait Chris Jones on I think it was Monday Night Football.
Yes.
The trash talk Zach Wilson. And this goes about the culture we're just talking about.
Yeah.
What did you think about that bait that he tried to get Chris Jones to do?
Well, let's just start off by saying I love Rodney Harrison. He's one of the few Patriots that I could appreciate. I love the way he played defense. The guy is kind of old school that way for sure. But anyways, what I would say about that is that he didn't know when to quit. When he realized that Buddy wasn't going to start tripping on Zach, he should have backed off. Yeah, he should have as a professional broadcaster. He should have known when to back off. Yeah, and he kept pushing it about what a joke the guy was. Well, give me a break, man. He outplayed Mahomes in that game. Sure, they lost, they lost, and his fumble was unfortunate. His lost fumble was unfortunate, but it was also his only turnover of the game. He didn't throw any picks. Mahomes threw two, and almost a third. He almost threw a third one, but it was called back because of defensive interference of some kind. So Zach outplayed Mahomes as far as I'm concerned. So I thought it was inappropriate of him to start teeing off on him like that. You know, there are issues and problems at quarterback in New York, but give the kid credit. He completed some pretty impressive passes for touchdowns in that game. They lost, but at home, but they covered the spread. And they made it a competitive game. They played them competitive up until the middle of the fourth quarter.
And I'm telling you right now, if there wasn't that call on was it defensive pass interference or something? Some kind of pass interference they called on Sauce Gardner, a BS call, by the way.
Yeah.
If they didn't make that call, I had the Jets winning because Jets had momentum. Well, they had momentum. If they,
you have to remember,
and that pick was allowed on the Jets. The Jets would have won that game because that momentum shifting play. It gives Zach Wilson another maybe 5 minutes left in the game or 4 minutes. The man could have took it up the field. You have
to remember that it was 17-5 at halftime, something like that.
Yes, it was.
Right. So, Mahomes and the Chiefs did most of their damage in the first half. And the Jets did most of the scoring in the second half. So think about that. So it was a fairly competitive game. Give the Chiefs credit. They eventually shut it down. But if it wasn't for that fumble, but it happened. If it wasn't for that fumble, they were driving, and it was looking like they would do more. So the Jets were they did not lay down for the Chiefs. Remember, I called it. I said it had 28-3 written all over it. Hell no, 23-20, 23-20, and it's not like the Jets did not have their opportunities. They did. So So it appears that the running game and defense is how the Jets are going to win games, if they're going to win games this year. That was very clear in that game. They just have to tune it up. They got to get Bryce Hall out there. They got to get that guy 20 touches a game.
Yes, yes, you're
Yeah,
absolutely right
and
about that.
rely on the defense and let Zach just fucking, pardon my language, but just let him manage the game. He's good at that.
Yes. Let
Yeah,
me tell you something, man. I
he's
think you
not
know what it is.
inaccurate.
He's not inaccurate. It's just that sometimes he'll make a bonehead play, and then
Yep,
that'll be a turnover.
he's
But
young.
think about this. He's young. He's 20, I think 22, 23 years old. This is his
Yeah,
third season in the league. It's okay to make mistakes. You're not going to come out of there looking like Mahomes. And he outplayed Mahomes.
who had who
He
had a
had a
lot of mistakes.
ton of mistakes. And this is the thing. I'm not a big Mahomes fan because I think his success is linked to the enemy and obviously Andy Reid. Because think about it like this:
Yeah, yeah,
when you have amazing coaching,
hmm,
it masks
yeah.
up the mistakes. If you looked at early Tom Brady in the early 2000s, Brady was a game manager.
Hmm.
Brady was not throwing, 30, 40 passes a game. Hell
That's
no.
right.
Belichick would spaz on him. He would not allow that.
Yeah,
Brady was throwing short hitch routes, ins and outs, just barely, maybe make one throw over the top for his first 4 or 5 seasons.
that's
Brady
right.
was a game manager, and you have to do that for the young QBs. You
Yep.
look at the Jets right now. The Jets have an opportunity to maybe go on a run. I'm looking at their schedules. They have the Broncos this upcoming week, so maybe
Hmm.
that's a win. Eagles,
Yep.
they're gonna get slapped. Giants, that's a win. Chargers, it's gonna be competitive. Raiders, that's a win. They could realistically finish their season off with a few wins. They have the Falcons, the Texans. They could finish off their seasons with a few wins if they use him correctly.
Yeah.
And I feel like Salah is gonna feel some pressure because they want some wins up there in New York. You know what I mean?
Well, you saw how hot he got.
Yeah.
The one thing that one analyst pointed out this week was that the, the Chiefs got a bit of help from the refs in that game,
Oh, a
and
lot.
yeah, and yeah, a lot, and that's why Salah was so upset. And I'm just sitting there going like, and the analyst was saying the same thing, that like, come on, man, the, the Chiefs don't need any assists.
They don't. The Chiefs are probably going to be there at the end, anyways. You know what I mean?
Well,
And this is what happens with the league. They pick favorites, man, and
well,
they
yeah,
orientate their
and
officiating towards these teams.
and
You know what I mean?
especially now with all the attention on Taylor Swift, right? She has to be having a good time, right? If the Chiefs are getting blown out, right? She ain't having a good time.
See, okay. So this is a little conspiracy that I heard. You know me. Me. You know me, man. You know how I do, bro.
Hey, I'm starting to buy into it.
So Taylor Swift has a album based on her concert tour. So her
Right.
concert tour, she did this somewhere. It's called the Arenas Tour. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently,
Yep.
this is our weekly Taylor Swift segment.
Yep.
Welcome to the Unconfused Show. You know what I mean? But she had this tour, the Arenas Tour. She's almost done the tour, but she's releasing an out like some kind of thing, like a movie documentary of the Arenas tour,
Oh,
and
sure. Why not?
it's coming out in a few weeks or probably at the end of the month. I believe this is a strategic push from her PR agency, her PR public relations team, in order to blast her and flood every corporation with it. And there was also another conspiracy theory is that the NFL wanted her to do the Super Bowl halftime show. So they were almost teasing it. Usher got the Super Bowl halftime show, but you already know if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, she's going on stage. She's going on stage. She's selling tickets. She's selling merch. Travis Kelce merch has been going off the shelves. He's selling out. This was a strategic business move. Welcome to Big J's Conspiracy Minute. That's my conspiracy minute, man. Let's go.
Well, yeah. At first, you know me, I'm usually one to dismiss it out of hand, but I am kind of seeing the way the NFL is latching on, like to her, the way they've got her on their Twitter feed and whatnot. So that is notable. And your talk last week about addressing the female demographic. I mean, they've been doing that for a long time. Once the NFL Network was you saw a lot of advertisement about girls and women buying like NFL merch, and that was specifically designed for them and whatnot. Like they were sort of tipping their hat to the fandom,
Yeah.
extending beyond that, and in so doing as well, raising the profile of those fans. Suggesting that they like that, and they want to see females participate in the fan base at the same level that men do. Because why?
Right.
Because it's right now probably 75-25. So you beef it, if you make it 50-50, it means that you're adding just that many more millions of fans, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it's been organized necessarily or set up necessarily, as a partnership between Taylor Swift and the NFL. But I think the NFL is happy to embrace it now that it seems to be, occurring organically or whatever. So yeah, it looks, it kind of looks like, and Taylor Swift, I think she's just like, she's in that rarefied atmosphere, I suppose, and she's decided that this is the guy she likes, and she wants to date him and whatnot. So she's gonna do what she naturally has learned to do over the last 15 years of her career, and that's promote the move, make it highly public, make it seem positive, and especially in the social media era with her, tens of millions of fans on Twitter and whatnot. She's saying, well, this is the new guy, and this is the team, and he works there, and blah, 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 blah. And they're very supportive and all that type of thing. And it's just been really amusing to see the reaction of guys my age, saying that the influence is ridiculous, that this should not be occurring, but it is, right? I saw a really funny meme where they had like a Packers fan.
Yeah.
He showed a screenshot of a message from his daughter, who's a Taylor Swift fan, saying that, I'm sorry, Daddy, I can't cheer for the Packers anymore. I'm cheering for the Chiefs, right? And his response, he typed out, they have my daughter. like it's a cult or something. But for her and her fans to affect that type of that type of conversation, that type of effect on the league in such a short period of time, it's a real phenomenon, and I can see why the NFL wants to embrace it. Now, just another aside, though, I'm not sure whether this occurred before or after he started dating Ms. Swift, but that handlebar mustache and the bowl haircut, wow,
terrible.
That looks really dorkish and retarded. It's a good thing that guy can play the way he does. My goodness, because holy crap, what the fuck? But I'll bet you any money. Now listen to this. I'll bet you any money, based on her influence, and guys, they want to. There's so many girls out there that support her. Guys want to impress those girls.
You think it's gonna come back in style? You think he's
God damn it, motherfucker! I am predicting the end of the mountain man look that is now so currently popular among white Americans and North Americans in the millennial segment. I'm telling you, it's over. They're all going for the dork look, man. It's going to be mustaches and shitty haircuts.
Oh my God, bro! Uncle with the hot take of the pod, the handlebars and the butt.
My God, like guys in the 80s,
weird as fuck.
Guys in the 80s who weren't 6'3", 250 would get beat up for looking like that.
I'm thinking like, my bad. I'm thinking like, bruh, look at this one. I like this picture, right? You see, like this is actually looking fresh. He's looking good. He's looking proper.
Natural.
This is what we doing. This is what we doing.
Dude, show that one.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing out here in these streets? But you know what's crazy? I believe you, and I think you're right.
Well, she's showing this outsized influence on the culture. And which actually brings me to another point. That's what is the negative that's occurring right now is that there is this sort of conservative right-wing assault within American media now on her because they recognize the outsized influence that she has, and she's not exercising it in a way that they think is appropriate. They look at Taylor Swift and they think that she should be one of theirs. She should be, a cultural
Oh,
avatar for, Southern values and guns and the Bible and all kinds of mean attitudes and all that type of thing. Instead, she's the opposite. And in fact, she has
wow.
embraced politics for a while now. She
Yes.
opposed Marsha Blackburn publicly as the senator from Tennessee
Okay.
and the Republican brand in general. So
Mhm.
here she is. They are very desperate to show her in a negative light because she's actually doing, like, with the influence that she has with all the Swifties, right? I
Yeah.
guarantee you 80% of them are all registered to vote based on her support of that. She
Oh,
has
yeah.
been very much an activist, really, when it comes to voting rights,
Yeah.
LGBTQ rights,
Mhm.
civil rights just in general, a lot of social justice issues. She is solidly on that side of modernity. She
Yeah.
is a supporter of an open democracy,
Mhm.
and so she has a lot of power.
Oh,
And
a ton of power. Yeah.
if she encourages 10 million new voters in the United States over the
Mhm.
next 18 months, and they all show up and vote for Democrats, like Christ.
Oh yes, there's definitely the conservative movement is not a big fan of her for sure because she's
They're
very Democrat left leaning.
they're
So is Kelsey in a sense. So there's been an
yeah.
attack on her politically because of her influence. And I'm telling you, the influence is real, man. Because I remember a few years ago,
That's
right?
that's
I
why they're scared.
They're scared, definitely. You know what I mean? And I remember a few years ago, we used to have in football the breast cancer awareness month, I think,
Yeah,
where teams would kind of wear pink
the
in
pink
order
shoes.
the pink shoes or pink gloves or like pink swag, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that goes to what we've been just talking about a second ago. The female influence and brand for the NFL is something that they really want to push, which is
Hmm.
smart. You know what I mean? And if you can find a way to use Taylor Swift as a way to get that female fan base, the NFL is going to exploit that. Now, the thing about the politics of this, you know, it's so goofy because they literally just started dating. It's like, bruh, like, why are we caring about our politics? Like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what? Like, we're here to
Well,
watch football. We're here to watch the Jets versus the Chiefs, dog.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
I don't know.
well.
I think it's silly
How
sometimes,
do
man.
you tell somebody with like 100 million, Instagram followers or whatever it is, and
Mhm.
the tens and tens of millions of sales, like
Oh yeah,
of record sales. I call them record sales. They're not records anymore, but you know what I'm saying. Like
I know what you're saying.
the number of sales of her individual titles and
Yeah.
whatnot clearly puts the lie to everything that they're saying, that she owes no talent hack, blah 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 blah. Yeah,
No,
because
no,
they're
she's
really
not with that.
attacking her and
Yeah.
saying that Kelts is like a soy boy and all that. Sure, go tell him that to his face, you bunch of goofs. You
I
know,
don't think they will. He's 6'4", 250 pounds, man. I
you know
doubt
what I'm
that he's
saying?
spreading
Like
things.
these are ridiculous things to say about people. And it's
Yeah.
clear that they've got this like grade school mentality that, they're just going to attack anybody for anything if they're not of, the right ilk, etc. So it's juvenile, but let's
It's
remember that
definitely that.
70%, 70 to
Mhm.
75% of America are normal,
Yeah.
right? And so you have to ignore those voices and see the obvious that, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are both famous, very talented, and are raising the
Yeah.
profile of the league in their own ways. So yeah, let's try to keep on point when it comes to what's going on in the culture, and
Yeah.
forget the negative noise that's coming out of those corners.
People are losing the plot, man. You know what it is? These are two people who are at the top of the industry in their early 30s, early to mid 30s, recently in breakups. Of course they're gonna date. Do you think they're gonna discuss politics on their date? Hell no. They're
They
just
don't
gonna
give.
chill. They probably, like the outside cares more about it. What I care about is our football teams winning. What I care about is watching touchdowns. What I care about is fantasy football. So let's talk about some
Yeah,
fantasy football,
yeah.
brother.
Let's get it back
Uh,
on topic.
what I want to talk about is fantasy football, our starts and sits, and it seems like a weekly segment for us. And I can go first quickly. A
Hmm.
guy that you guys want to start. I'm telling you, is Tank Dell off the Texans. Pretty
Hmm.
much anyone offensively off the Texans. Obviously, Nico Collins, if you have him.
Yeah,
Somehow he's hanging around in the waiver wire. I would also consider right now strategically to start doing some trades. Consider some trades. If you can somehow get DJ Moore, get him. You know what I mean? If
yeah,
somehow you can get Puka off the Rams, get him. And you know what? I see an uptick in the performance by Justin Fields. So if you can get Justin Fields, get him. A person who I actually would bench, and I feel sad saying this, a guy like Mark Andrews, and I'll say this why, because the Ravens are really focused on their receivers now. Odell Beckham is coming off an injury, so he's going to get some targets. Obviously, Zay Flowers, he's going to get targets. So guys who you would expect to be starting, maybe sit them or consider some trades right now. Strategically, I would start doing some trades. But Unc, fantasy football wise, man, do you have any starts and sits, any advice, any strategic ways
yeah.
for people to win out here?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I want to take back my advice on
Oh,
Akani in
okay.
Miami. I said that that guy would revert back to his
Oh,
normal
he went
statistics.
crazy last week. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
He
On
killed it. Yeah.
freaking 8 runs, that guy had like 100+ yards.
Yep.
So yeah, clearly there is the Miami offense is viable for both Mostert and
Mhm.
Achani. And
Yep.
Achani has 3 games coming up in a row against less than stellar run defenses. So I think it's just going to continue.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I have to eat shit on that advice I gave you on Achani last week, and yeah, definitely start that guy.
Yeah, he's really
Um,
good.
the other one is a tight end. And
Okay.
before I give you my advice on that tight end, because he also has a very favorable schedule coming up, like the next 3 games in a row are all against teams that give up the most points
Mhm.
against tight ends, and one of them is number 1, and
Okay.
the worst one is like number 8. So like it's really 3 solid matchups for Dallas Goddard. And I want to
Oh.
say, Dallas Goddard in Philly. And I want to say that this is, excuse me,
Mhm.
this has been a fascinating year for the position of tight end in fantasy because for so many years, Kelsey's been at the top. It's been no question. And
Yep.
it's been a strategy of mine for years now, for years to try to target Kelsey, simply because he gives you so much of an edge against the other team because there were so few tight ends that could generate points in the way that he did. Well,
Yes.
this year, the tight end position is the pyramid is flattened considerably. There used to be a
Oh.
real strategic advantage of having Kells because you could count on him getting double-digit points every week, while your competition did anywhere from like 0 to 4 points. Right? Anybody
Yeah.
getting over 5 points as a tight end was considered like a stud, tight end. But
Okay.
Kelts was, he scored points like a wide receiver. So you could have a strategic advantage in fantasy over the whole league by a good, it's like a 5-6 point handicap every week just by playing Travis Kelce. But that does not
Mhm.
apply this year. Your
Yeah.
boy Andrews is like the second or third ranked, right? Your tight ends there's the pyramid is flattened considerably. There's about Kelce is, I think, number 5 overall.
Yeah.
And so there's like 5 or 8 tight ends that are viable, one of which is Dallas Goddard in a rather high scoring offense.
Yeah.
And so, yes. And he's got the next 3 weeks. I put in a waiver wire claim for him, but the next 3 weeks
Oh.
are very favorable for Dallas Goddard.
Yeah.
The other start I would have is you mentioned him a second ago, and that's Nakua. Nakua
Nakua,
keeps
yeah.
producing. Yeah, he
Yeah.
keeps producing. So
Mm.
I would keep running him out there until he does not.
Yes. Yes.
There's 3 guys right there. I would say definitely start. Sits again, right? If you've got anybody in Cincinnati right now, it's really distressing. They're not scoring a lot of points. So yeah,
Mm.
any team that's not producing regular points, you know how it goes, right? Like, do not look to these fantasy players. Dalvin Cook washed for the Jets, right? So anyone who drafted him this year thinking that he might do something better, I bounced him already like 2 weeks ago. He's just not producing.
Smart
Um,
move, yeah. The smart.
yeah, your Buffalo, yeah. Buffalo Bill players, run them all out there. They're scoring very highly right now.
Oh
But
yeah.
teams that are not scoring, bench those players.
If you don't have a team that's actually consistently getting 20 to 30 points per week, you
Mm-hmm.
got to start benching folks. Folks got to
Right.
sit down, or folks got to get waived, bro.
Yeah.
I have Joe Mixon on one of my leagues, and I'm like, you're doing nothing. You're doing
Try to
nothing. I'm
imagine.
going to bench him this year, dog. This
Try to
week.
imagine the guys who relied on T. Higgins and Burrows and Jamar Chase to have lights out numbers every year. It's just not happening.
It's not what's happening, and you know we really got to start having a conversation about Joe Burrow, because I'm like, bruh, we're week 5 right now.
Well,
We're smooth walking into week 5. This man got a crazy bag. No production,
yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
If he's still injured, if you're still injured, I think I'd want him rather to sit down
yeah.
and have their backup, whoever it is, maybe AJ McLaren or whoever is in behind him. Get on there, get on the field, get healthy, and make a push around the end of the season. Because I think the Bengals could still be in the hunt for a playoff spot, but that offense, that team just looks out of it, dog. What do you think, man? You know what I mean? Not really fantasy advice, just overall. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I'm going to talk about that. So what I'm going to do right now is segue into the line
Yeah,
this
let's do it.
weekend for that. You talk about identifying betting lines that look like they might be profitable for you.
Look at Unc, man, making those smooth transitions, man. Leave the smooth shit to me. I'm kidding, man. No, I
Professor
like it. I love it.
Professor Segue. Uh,
Yes,
yeah, no, but seriously, they're going. Identifying that game. I'm pretty sure that the Cardinals. They're playing the Cardinals this weekend, and the Cardinals are at home.
we can check,
And
I believe.
I,
Yep, they are playing
I,
the Cardinals. Yep.
what's the line on that? It's like I think Cincinnati might actually be favored.
Yeah, they're favored -3. Yep,
Yeah,
-3.
take the freaking
Mhm.
Cards. Take the Cards. And I'll tell you
Mm.
why. I'll tell you
Wow.
why. The Cards are 3-1 against the spread this year. They're 2-0 against
Okay.
the spread at home. Cincinnati's playing like ass. The Cardinals are
Yeah.
not. The Cardinals are showing themselves to be very functional on offense.
Yeah.
They're playing at home, like I said, and there's just no way I think that they lose the game, let alone allow Cincinnati to cover that spread at
Yes.
all. Yeah. So and Cincinnati is 1-3 against the spread. Okay.
Oh, I
So
didn't know. Okay.
yeah. Well, this is what you asked me to do, right?
Man,
And so
y'all should thank us. Thank Unc for doing the deep research, man. That's dope.
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I targeted that game in particular. I've
Mm-hmm.
circled that one in red. So that to me that's a good betting line.
Nice. Any other games you've been looking at? Are you interested in, man?
Well,
Mhm.
normally I don't like double digits as spreads, but
Mm.
Miami's favored by 12.5 this weekend at home. And I just have the
Oh,
feeling
Miami
they're going to,
favored by 12.5. Let's see. Oh,
yeah, yeah. And I just think that I think they're playing the
yeah, I see
Giants,
it. 12.5 right here versus the Giants.
right? Like
They're
somewhere
playing
right
the
now,
Giants.
as
Yeah,
of
they're
this
playing the
moment, right
Giants.
now, somehow Daniel Jones is finding a way to get sacked again. Right now, he might have tripped. He might have tripped and fallen in the subway turnstile, but he just got sacked again right now.
He lost
So
another 10 yards to them, man.
right, so yeah, Danny Dimes is probably going to be. Who knows? He might score a lot of points. I don't know, but I just think that Miami could well be 12 and a point. 2 touchdowns better than the Giants right now. I think that's
Oh,
totally
yes.
possible.
Oh, yes.
And there is
Oh, yes. They're going to cover that.
another
I think
line.
they're
And
going to cover that easily.
again, Miami is like 3-1 against the spread, 2-0 at home. Like, yeah, these things are starting to matter. Like these trends are they're starting to show out. You're a quarter way through the league, through the
Oh,
schedule.
yeah.
So these things are
Oh,
starting to
yeah.
matter. The other one that I find
Okay.
interesting
Yes, sir. Talk to us.
is the Jets on the road in the afternoon game against Denver. Denver, I
Okay.
believe, is
Okay. Let's look at the
favored.
Jets right now versus Denver.
I think, yeah,
Yes. Ironically, they're
Denver's
favored
favored
minus
by
two and a
what,
half. Yeah.
2.5 points.
2.5 for them.
So
Yeah.
you got to remember, right? They're favored by 2.5. Denver's at home, so there's 1 to 1.5 points baked in right there. That's really just a 1 point game, almost a pick 'em.
Yeah, it is.
And
Yeah.
I think, and because the Jets are another 3-1 team against the spread. and Denver is
Oh,
1-3 against the spread. So
oh,
the way Denver has been playing, I have a
okay.
feeling that the Jets might cover that and might just steal the win.
Ooh, the Jets might go into Denver and be a
Right?
little spoiler in that thing, huh?
That's right. I'm not
Oh,
sure it would be much of a spoiler given the season that Denver is having so far. But we
that's
know Denver can score a lot of points.
yup,
But we
yup.
also know that the Jets' main strength is their cornerbacks and their defense in general.
That is true. That is
So
true.
I believe that the Jets will prevail in that game.
Oh, okay. I like it. I like it. We're gonna follow up on this next week. It's lines
Please
and
don't.
spreads with Punk, and I think you're really good. I really like that Jets and Denver game.
Yeah,
I, you know what's ironic, man? I'm gonna stop sharing the screen. A lot of games where you'd expect two trash teams to have a trash showing have actually been entertaining, and then you'll see two huge matchups. A huge matchup like we were talking about Miami versus Buffalo last week. You
right.
think, oh wow, it's going to be really competitive, blowout, and but then we had Chicago versus Denver.
Yeah,
That was
that's
an
the one.
exciting football game. I really
It was
liked
one of
it.
the best. It was one of the best games of the week,
Fantastic game.
and it was good to see Fields out there putting up points and all that type of thing was
Yeah,
fantastic. But
yeah,
my main takeaway from that game is
mm.
that was supposed to be the toilet bowl, the tank bowl, all that type of thing,
Yeah.
right? But it ended up being the most entertaining game of the week with a ton of points scored. So what does that tell you? It tells you both Denver and Chicago have shitty defense. that's
That is
the
a great
that's my
conclusion, man. Because yes, they broke both defenses looked pathetic at different parts of the game.
that that was my only takeaway from that game. Besides that, it was entertaining.
Something interesting that I want to mention before we head out. Uh, Justin Fields, the play of Justin Fields, he has like 8 touchdowns,
In two
one
weeks.
interception in 2 weeks.
Yep.
He's absolutely balling.
Yep.
Obviously, we saw the DJ Moore performance
Oh boy,
this
baby. Who's
weekend.
been waiting for that, huh? Just about
Everyone.
everybody.
And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
once they finally connect and they have a rhythm, oh, it's over.
I've been a
It's over.
I've been a DJ Moore fan for a long time. I think he's one of the most underrated wide receiver ones out there. So
Yes,
I
sir.
was super encouraged. I was really happy for him to have a monster game like that, and I think
Yes.
it'll continue. Yeah, no, it's remarkable what's going on there with Fields. Just after we had said, like, I don't know why they're putting the clamps on the guy. Let him play.
Yes.
And they've done that over the last 2 weeks. Like, look what they did to the Commanders, who we know are a decent team,
Very
um,
decent.
just on
Yep.
Thursday night. So yeah, and look at that. Like, that was a short turnaround. They played the Sunday evening game,
Yes,
or
they
Sunday
did.
afternoon, and then turned around and played a Sunday afternoon game, I think, and then turned
Yeah.
around and played Thursday evening, and still put up
Yes.
all those points again. So yeah, yeah, it looks like Fields is finding his feet again. I don't know whether the coaches have stopped trying to make him be this or that. But like, I think he had another 50 yards of running or close to it. So
Mm-hmm.
Fields had a great night, and he's had two of them back to back, 5 days apart, 4 days apart.
Yes.
So yeah, whatever they're doing in Chicago is starting to work again.
I'm telling you this, man. It's going to sound controversial, but I don't care. Justin Fields, I believe, was the best quarterback of that draft. That year, they drafted a ton of QBs. I think it was Lawrence was there. Was Zach Wilson part of that draft? I'd have to check. But that year that they drafted a ton of QB, maybe even Trey Lance was in that year.
Yeah,
But it was a ton of QBs that were chosen, right? That were picked, and I think Fields went seventh or eighth or something. I believe he was the best quarterback in that draft. The issue about the NFL draft is that you are always going to go on a bad organization, no matter if you're an early pick for quarterback. And
yeah.
now you see an individual. I feel so bad for Bryce Young. Bryce Young has zero time in the pocket and he's throwing to bombs. I'm sorry to say this. I'm not saying y'all are bombs. I'm saying that these players are not the type of receivers that a young quarterback
It will
needs.
thrive with.
He cannot thrive under that offense. He is struggling. But let me tell you this. I saw flashes in Fields. Fields has natural talent, and he's a smart quarterback. And I'm happy that they're letting him, in a sense, loose. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that he can actually play some ball. You feel me? So, by
He
the way, shouts out to CJ Boom. He's in the comments here. And I think I might have missed his comment. He just said something here. When Derrick Henry rushed for over 2,000 yards, he didn't win MVP. But Christian McCaffery is doing a little good this season. Now everybody wants him to put in MVP consideration. This is really showing the NFL fan base.
yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And
Interesting. What do you think, Unc?
well, to be fair, I think that's a great observation.
It is a good one.
But to be fair, Derrick Henry, he should have been given that award for that year.
I
Anybody
agree.
who rushes over 2,000 yards, I believe, come on.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, like in fairness, they were talking about him
Yes, they
in the
will.
same way that they're talking about CMC right now, and the tragedy that the award will inevitably go to a quarterback and ignore Derrick Henry. So yes, his observation is spot on, correct. But he was in conversation with the MVP that year, the same way that McCaffrey is. But he makes a fantastic point. These running backs should be awarded the MVP, and
Oh.
the quarterback should have their own damn award.
I see something interesting to mention is that if you even remember Cooper Cup a few years ago, where he got
Mhm.
the triple crown,
Yeah,
receiving yards and receiving touchdowns,
right.
they gave him Offensive Player of the Year. But dude, he was the best player that year. He even won Super Bowl MVP. Cooper Cup was having an amazing season. I think my response to CJ Boone, by the way, shouts out to you for checking out the show and commenting. We appreciate that. Um, if you look at it, the Niners look virtually unbeatable right now. And when Derrick Henry was with Tennessee that year, I think it was maybe 3 years ago. I think
Mhm.
the Titans were maybe third or fourth seed. The Niners
Mhm.
right now were the number one seed, and they look
Yeah,
unstoppable right now. And their best player is clearly
yeah.
McCaffrey. So I think the seeding also matters too. What do you
I
think?
think it's actually going to be fascinating this weekend. I think the game of the week is
Yes,
Dallas.
yes.
Dallas is visiting San Francisco, I believe.
I'll check to
Yeah,
confirm.
let's look at those odds again. Let's talk about that game.
Yeah, let me go on the odds actually. I'm gonna put it up on the screen right now. But
I,
yes, the
I
game
believe.
of the week is clearly Dallas versus San Francisco.
Hmm.
That is could be even an NFC championship game
Oh yeah,
preview.
it's going to be a
I
preview of
think
the conference
San Francisco
championship,
is
most
going to
likely.
Dallas. Yep, and it's going to be Sunday night football. I think San Francisco is going to Dallas. Yep,
And
and
what
it'll
is
be
it, like three
the
and a
favorite
half?
to San Fran by 3.5, 3.5 for San Fran.
Three and a half, right?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so let's talk about this now,
We'll
because
talk about
yeah, because
it. Yep.
yeah, the points for and the points against difference for Dallas is probably the widest in the league, just about. I think they've only had about 42 points
Yep.
scored against their offense, against their defense, but they've scored like something like 124. Now we
Mhm.
know Dallas is blown hot and cold, right? So whereas
Very much.
CMC in
Yep.
San Francisco has been more consistent. But I'll tell you what,
Very
three and a
consistent.
half points to me, 3.5 points to me seems like just a bit too much, because again, the 1 to 1.5 points,
Oh.
1 to 1.5 points is
Mhm.
built into San Francisco as the home team. And I
Mhm.
think Dallas's defense is fantastic. I'm not saying they're going to bottle anybody up, but I
Mhm.
think that what the odds makers are really saying is that this is a 2.5 to 2 point game. They think that San Francisco will win by about a field goal, and I
Oh
think
yeah,
that's about correct. And
San Francisco is yeah. So San
as the
Francisco
home,
is the home team. So yeah, you're right. They do bake in a few points. So they're saying that essentially it's going to be a field goal game. Yep, it's going to be a field goal.
right.
Yeah.
And I believe, well, basically to make Dallas pay off,
Mm.
it's got to be less than a field goal.
Yep.
And so it's not quite a pick'em game like I was saying earlier, but
No.
that's really only a 2 point favorite for San Francisco. But I think
Mhm.
San Francisco is at home on national TV. I
Yep.
think it's going
Monday
to be
night.
a barn. I think it's going to be a barn burner game, but I think it's only
Yep.
going to be like 2017, something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure San
Okay.
Francisco comes out on top. So
Okay.
take the under probably in that game, because you've got
Okay.
two, like the number one and number two defense basically,
Yeah,
when it comes to keeping points off the board. So yeah, I really think it's going to be tight like that.
it's a good point. I do
Yeah,
agree with you. I would probably,
but I think
I, w-
Dallas covers,
I would agree with you because I would probably take the under.
and
You think Dallas covers?
I think
Okay.
Dallas covers. Yeah,
I would take the under because they're saying over 40. The over under is 45. I would also take the under.
yeah.
Does Dallas cover? I think it's possible because it's going to be a tight defensive game.
Well,
We're good for a Dak interception. That's happening for sure.
yeah.
But the turnover battle is going to be important. When is Dak going to throw an interception or fumble? That's really important because that's happening for sure. And
Yeah.
will Brock Purdy have an impact in the game? Let's see, because we know McCaffrey going to have an impact. But I agree with you. I would take the under 45 for sure.
Purdy just made Phil Simms look like Phil Simms' Super Bowl win where he had like 22 out of 24 completion record, I think it was, in that game way back in like 90, 91. And
Okay.
but Purdy went 21 for 22 this week.
What?
Like 20,
Are you for
yeah,
real?
or some number like that. He had
I'm gonna say
one incompletion, no picks, nothing. So Purdy's looking machine-like.
wow. Yeah,
So
I'm just looking at
yeah,
it right now. You're absolutely right. He went 20 for 21. What the
and,
fuck?
and so let me tell you how I think this is going to go. I
Tell us.
think Dallas is driving. That Dak pick is going to come when Dallas is driving in the last 2 minutes of the game, threatening, the 2017 lead that San Francisco has,
Okay.
and they
Okay.
stop them, but they score
Mhm.
under. They lose by 3 points, so they cover.
So they cover. They're gonna cover the spread. Now keep
Yeah,
in
and
mind.
Dak will throw that pick on their drive to win the game, because it'll be an exciting game like that.
I think you know what's crazy about these teams, the Niners and the Cowboys. They've met in the playoffs for almost
So
the
many
past three
times.
years. Like they met last year, they lost. They met the year before, and it's always like some embarrassing last minute run play. Like I think they had Zeke Elliott out there in the last play last year where they had to do like a Hail Mary. They had Dak running up the middle a few years ago. These teams always meet all the time. Now, here's where I want to put a little some spice on it. I want to hear what you think about this. Trey Lance got traded to the Cowboys.
Oh, no kidding.
Trey Lance got traded to the Cowboys at the beginning of the season. Do you think Trey Lance is going to snitch and give the Cowboys some inside knowledge about that Kyle Shanahan offense
Of
or that
course,
defense? Do
of
you think
course
that's
he
going to
is.
matter? Do you think they might put in Trey Lance for a run package? I don't know. What do you think, Unc?
I don't think Trey Lance sees the field,
Oh,
but I absolutely, of course, they're going to mine that guy. They're going to plumb that guy for all the information they can get.
oh
Of course,
yeah.
and he's going to willingly give it all up. Dallas is his new team. I mean, shit, he lost his job there.
You
Probably
feel
hates San
me?
Francisco.
Man, he probably is going crazy, talking crazy shit in the group chat.
Yeah,
Talking
yeah, for
crazy shit
sure.
about Brock Purdy. I personally, here's my thing. I think they're gonna run Trey Lance there at some point, because I think that maybe some random package. Because I believe that they're kind of grooming Trey Lance as the new guy. Because
They
if Dak
better.
does another terrible playoff implosion, because it's usually him who messes it up, they're gonna open the floodgates for Trey Lance. So this is almost like a dress rehearsal. I think he's gonna
But
show up maybe for one or two plays. That's just
as
my
long,
contention. You know what I mean?
yeah, as long as Dallas is 3-1, or projecting like that,
Yeah.
like they are this season, and with that, that monster defense. Yeah, there's no way Dak loses his job this year unless he gets injured, or
Mm.
somehow his quarterback play just completely plummets, where he's getting like one touchdown and 3 picks like a month in a row. Like, it would take a lot for Dak to lose his job to Trey Lance. Come on now.
Here's the thing. Here's my contention. My contention is this, man. If he has a bad playoff exit, let's say they go in the wild card and they face, I don't know, like Tampa Bay or some shit like that, which
Yeah,
is
get their ass
possible.
whooped.
They get smoked. You don't know that the Dallas media, the Dallas ecosystem,
Oh yeah.
they're
Well,
gonna
that.
beg for his job to go. So at that point, you also have Jerry Jones, who's unpredictable as
Mhm,
well. Who knows? They might
sure.
do a trade package because let me tell you something. Baker Mayfield is cooking something there
If
in Tampa. That's my opinion.
if that
Sorry?
scenario unfolded as you described,
Yeah,
then yes, there would be an off-season controversy.
yeah.
But until that time, Dak won't lose his job to Trey Lance.
No, not this season. No, no, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm saying I'm
In the
talking
off
about
season,
the off season. If he
yeah,
has a bad playoff showing, which I think is in the
a typical
playoffs.
Dallas, a typical Dallas showing. Yes,
You know what I mean? Like the yearly Dallas disappointment, dog. You
right.
know what I mean? When the Dallas disappointment happens, when we reach the cliff and we the Titanic right now, you know what I mean? And then
Mhm.
you know what I mean, it explodes. I think that's in play.
The N-
But yeah, that's just my thinking. You know what I mean? Who
the
knows? You know,
the NFL's double D, the Dallas disappointment.
the Dallas disappointment.
Yeah, they.
But on that note, we gotta
Mm,
add another D to that, and that's deuces.
yeah, 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 yeah.
It's that time. Appreciate y'all for checking us out, man. Unc and Phew. Episode 4 of season 2. We appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all for showing love, and we'll catch y'all next week. We might have a new time, so check the community tab and stay locked in with us. Unc,
Yeah.
how do you
Well,
feel, man? We killed that.
yeah, no, that was a lot of fun as always. So yeah, I definitely want to thank everybody and anybody who tuned in to watch this live podcast.
Yes, sir.
Please smash that like and subscribe button. We thrive on all that,
All right.
and yeah, keep the comments coming. We really encourage it.
Appreciate y'all. We out.
All right, peace, one love.
Yes.